Hello everyone, Ember Power here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be doing what is actually going to be a channel first actually, and that is going to be taking a look at a GLC deck that I've been working on. So basically, as all of you are probably aware who are a fan of GLC, basically TCG Live does not have the full GLC, which is a shame, so we can't use the expanded cards. But there is a way to continue playing GLC on TCG Live, and that is through the standard format. So basically, when I took the first look at Orthworm, I realized that he'd kind of been done dirty in the TCG. He's one of my favorite new Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet, but unfortunately, his card is super underwhelming in terms of standard. So, of course, I turned to GLC to try and make this Pokemon work. And even though the attack is admittedly a bit lackluster, to be honest, compared to some other GLC attackers, I do think the ability is, of course, very strong. Nutritional Iron says if this Pokemon has 3 or more Meta Energy attached to it, it gets plus 100 HP. So, in a format that's exclusively for single prize Pokemon, having an ability like Nutritional Iron just means you can have a 230 HP single prize Pokemon. And it is worth noting that once we get Paradox Rift, Orthworm will be able to have the tool card Gorgeous Mantle that will actually give it plus 100 HP. It will be giving up a Robux, not a Robux, a prize card at that point, but it will essentially have 330 HP, which is kind of wild to be honest, so can't wait for that. But basically, how we're going to charge up Orthworm in this deck is by using the Magenzo. Now, of course, if this was the full version of GLC, then we'd have access to the Magenzo from the Sun and Moon era. That basically allows you to attach as many Meta Energy from your hand as you like to your Pokemon, so that's definitely a much better card. But this Magenzo has the ability Giga Magnet that says once in your turn, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck and attach any number of Meta Energy cards from the top cards of your deck to your Pokemon in any way you like. So basically, that's how we're going to charge up our Earthworm. That does, of course, require 4 energy. So he is a bit of a hefty boy. You know, he is demanding a lot of energy to attack. But hopefully, if we get a bit lucky with Magenzo, then that should be pretty easy to do by turn 2, turn 3, hopefully, if we get Earthworm up and running. Basically, as for other Pokemon, compared to a lot of GLC decks, I'm trying out a list that doesn't play many other Pokemon. So I'm just going with 9 Pokemon for this list in particular. I'll probably add more metal type Pokemon as, you know, they release more standard viable ones. I think right now, for standard at least, there's not many great options. So, yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but there's not too many options, and I kind of wanted to just streamline the list a bit. But of course, you know, I am kind of new to building decks in GLC, so if you have any advice or any Pokemon that you would suggest adding to GLC, then of course, you know, let me know down below, and I'll add them to the deck. But basically, we have other attackers like this Dialga from the set Celebrations that has 2 really solid attacks. Temporal Backflow is pretty decent in recovering any 1 card from the discard pile, which is really solid in a format where you can only play 1 ofs. And then the attack Metal Blast does 60 damage and then 20 more for each Meta Energy attached to this Pokemon. So basically, it's just a similar situation with Orthworm, just like a big metal type basic that we want to put a load of energies on. So really solid option. Also, the only other really strong heavy hitter we have in the deck here is going to be Zamazenta with the ability Metal Shield that says if this Pokemon has any metal energy or any energy attached to it, it takes 30 less damage from attacks. And then it also has the attack Retaliate, so it does 100 damage, and if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 120 more. So doing 220 is of course very, very strong, just going to KO anything in GLC really. I don't think there's any Pokemon that will survive a hit from this. Of course, once we get that tool card that increases Pokemon by HP by plus 100, that's obviously going to be quite scary, but still Retaliate. Until that day happens, this is still a very strong attacker, and of course, a very tanky one. We also have 1 copy of Zacian. I was kind of torn between like adding Zacian and not having Zacian in here, but I do like the attack Battle Legion. It does 20 damage and then 10 more for each of your benched Pokemon. So it's not a terrible attack in all honesty. Like, we're not playing a whole ton of Pokemon, and you could make the argument that I'm just not running enough Pokemon full stop for this to be a really viable attack. But Slicing Blade also just does 100 damage, which is kind of nice in certain situations if we really need to use it in a pinch. And it's just a very efficient attack in the early game, so that's why I like having Zacian in here. Then as for Draw Engine, the Metal types actually got their first real proper draw card, as far as I can tell. in the Scarlet Violet era, thanks to Rev Room, which says once in your turn we can discard an energy card from our hand to draw until we have 6 cards at hand. Very, very strong ability, and you will need to set up a Rev Room if you're, hoping to draw cards throughout most of the game. So that's kind of it for Pokemon. Of course, there is a bit of a disparity in this list between Pokemon trainers and energy. If you have any suggestions for other standard metal type Pokemon that you would add to this list, then of course let me know. But I'm kind of sticking with the theme of, powering up these big, basic, powerful metal types. But then as we look into the trainers, there's like nothing too crazy here. I'm obviously running maybe more trainers than you probably should in a GLC deck, but new additions, I guess, included stuff like Letter of Encouragement. Says if something was knocked out, we can search our deck for 3 basic energies, which is kind of nice, on honesty. Just thins the deck out a bit. We've got stuff like Pot Helmet as well, actually, to increase the damage that we take less of. That makes sense. Like, I did a terrible job at phrasing that. But basically, we put this on like a Zamazenta, we can take minus 60, so yeah, that's kind of what we're going for here. We're just trying to make our Pokemon very tanky. We've got stuff like Avery for Disruption. Where is it here? There we go. Bravery Charm also increases our basic Pokemon HP by plus 50. So, we want to stick this on like a Dialga or Red Zamazenta or the Earthworm just to make them extra tankier. And then, of course, once we get the new tool card with plus 100 HP, keep bringing that up. But it is quite important for this kind of deck. So, yeah, Bravery Charm, very strong addition to this list and definitely what we want to go for. I'm still running the Clara. I might actually cut Clara from the list. I've not played any games with this deck, at least against other GLC decks. But I'm probably going to cut the Clara, to be honest, because I don't think you need it, to be honest. I think Super Rod's okay. Like, we have a finite number of Pokemon. That's probably why I thought Clara would be a good idea. But it is also your, supporter for turn, and you'd rather be playing, a draw supporter, like Falconer, for example. I do think maybe there's one too many supporters in this deck, though, and I could cut them down, but yeah, that's another thing. Let me know if you think there's too many supporters in the list. Everything else, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. I'm running Falconer because I'm actually running quite a few stadiums. I've got stuff like Crystal Cave, which just adds the tanky aspect. Artisan, I think, is a given, even though it does help our opponent out a bit. Also playing Primordial Altar, which is just a bit of draw power. Messagoza can find stage 2s, and then Pokestop is there to thin for items. And hopefully we don't, of course, discard any Pokemon. So Pokestop's pretty risky. Might cut that eventually for another energy card. Speaking of which, we only play 11. And, Migenzone obviously needs to hit at least 1 or 2 a turn. So could definitely change things around a bit. And, this is my first GLC deck. So do, of course, let me know what you think of it down below. What would you change if this was your deck? And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to do more of these kind of deck profiles for standard GLC because it's something I enjoy doing. And of course, if you do actually want to feature in a video against me, then I'll be happy to try and test this out. So yeah, let me know down below. Speed and error power, and thank you for watching.